I've sat with numerous pastors. I've spoken in numerous churches. I've talked to numerous Christians, and they always look at me with just this look of surprise. They almost think I'm lying. You know, the reason we started Stories of Antisemitism is kind of a multifaceted answer. It really started in 2020 after reading several books and really a handful of discussions with some Christian leaders and with some Jewish leaders, and I learned about the history of Christian anti-Semitism. I remember thinking as a young person, and really for many years serving in Christian churches, that probably the extent of Christian anti-Semitism was, the story of when the church in Germany or Poland sang louder because they heard the cries of the Jewish people from the cattle car as they pulled away to be taken to a concentration camp. And I'd heard that story a few times and thought that was probably the extent, that the Christian community was largely just complacent. And then as I read and as I learned, I found out that we went far beyond complacency in World War II to complicity. But it wasn't just World War II, that it really extended all the way back to some of the earliest generations of Christianity. And as I learned about that, I just realized this was the wedge. Maybe there are many wedges. Of course, there are religious differences, but there probably isn't a bigger wedge or a more painful wedge that's been driven between the Jewish community and the Christian church or Christians than Christian anti-Semitism. And so I was deeply convicted over the aspect of Christian anti-Semitism, thinking someone needs to talk about this, because Christians by and large don't have any idea. I've sat with numerous pastors. I've spoken in numerous churches. I've talked to numerous Christians, and they always look at me with just this look of surprise. They almost think I'm lying. Like they think that this couldn't possibly be true because they've never heard it anywhere. And of course, why would we want to talk about it? But the reality is Christian anti-Semitism is a huge blight. It's a huge dark spot on Christian history and on the relationships between Christians and Jewish people. That was the first one. The second one was actually when I just began to look at, well, what's anti-Semitism like right now? And this is 2020. This is early 2020. We just got into COVID lockdowns. And I remember one morning just thinking to myself, you know what? I think they'll blame COVID on the Jews. And I got up out of my bed, went to my computer, just did a quick Google search, and dozens of hits came up of people who were talking about the fact that they thought COVID was the Jew flu. That came out several times in 2020. And there were just multiple, obviously fallacious accusations against the Jewish people that COVID was the Jewish people's fault. And the more that I dug into it, the ADL, a lot of people have heard of the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL came out that year and said that anti-Semitic incidents in America were the worst that they had seen since they had started in 1979. And now we see statistics where anti-Semitism was really on a steep incline even since 2016. The history of Christian anti-Semitism mingled with the rapidly accelerating anti-Semitism that was happening even before October 7th really caused us to have great conviction and realize that we need to speak out and that we need to build bridges with our Jewish community and show them solidarity and show them love and show them concern coming from the Christian church. And so those things caused us to start Stories of Antisemitism. In the beginning, it was just an effort to have a few conversations and really to try to impact our Jewish and Christian communities locally. But over time, it's grown to something more. And we have pastors and leaders from around the nation that we get to connect with, that we consult with, that we help to put on events and things like that so that they can connect with their Jewish community. Stories of Antisemitism in many ways doesn't feel like a dream job. It's becoming a dream job as much as that sounds sort of morbid or ridiculous. It's really an organization that was birthed out of urgency and need. and a desire to counteract something horrible that's happened in the Christian past.